Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we have a stack of sources detailing one of the most intense fictional manhunts ever written, Jeffery Deaver's masterpiece, The Bone Collector.
And our mission today is more than just retelling a story. We're going to be doing a full forensic examination of this case.
Right. We're trying to extract the core insights into, high-stakes, criminalistic, psychological profiling, the works.
We're really using this narrative as a kind of masterclass. We get to see how this brilliant but completely incapacitated investigator,
And let's be honest, a rookie field agent.
a total rookie, how they use the absolute tiniest details of physical evidence. I mean, we're talking dust, metal scraps, cleaning fluid to track a historically obsessed serial kidnapper across New York City.
And all of it against this terrifying 3:00 p.m. deadline.
It's the ultimate race against time.
Okay, let's just jump right into that central contradiction, because it's what makes the whole premise so compelling. You have arguably the greatest forensic mind the city has ever seen, but he's totally, utterly helpless. He's trapped.
He's trapped inside his own body. That's, of course, Lincoln Rhyme.
The man himself.
Yeah, he's the head of the Identification and Reconstruction Division, the IRD. I mean, he was a powerhouse until this accident. This tragic accident left him a quadriplegic.
A C4 vertebra injury, the sources say. Devastating.
Completely. So now he's confined to this gothic, Upper West Side townhouse, a mind of pure deduction, just separated from the entire physical world.
And the description of Rhyme himself is so crucial. It really reflects his whole internal state, right?
Absolutely. He's physically neglected. We hear about his bushy, unkempt hair, the constant beard growth.
And those fingernails. The source mentions his long, long fingernails and how he wears the same ugly polka-dotted pajamas for days on end.
He's living in a kind of high-tech prison, this Clinitron bed that rotates him automatically. And it's got this control panel that's so complex it looks like something, off the space shuttle.
And that physical decay, that neglect, it just fuels this deep psychological cynicism he has.
Well, he's in constant grinding pain, total exhaustion. And we have to remember this detail throughout the whole deep dive. He has actively decided to end his life.
That's right. He's not just depressed, he's made a plan.
A very concrete plan. He's desperately seeking assisted suicide. He's already tried to starve himself, and he has this meeting scheduled with his physician, Dr. William Berger.
And Berger is coming with the, quote, paraphernalia.
The seconal, the brandy, and the plastic bag. That ticking clock of his own planned death hangs over every single minute he spends on this case.
Which is what makes the arrival of this case so disruptive to his plan. Rhyme needs a body to operate. He needs someone to be his eyes and his hands out there.
And he gets patrolwoman Amelia Sachs,
Who is pretty much the exact opposite of him in every way.
She's the ultimate paradox to his meticulous, slow, intellectual approach. She's a patrol officer who's known more for her Indy 500 driving than for her forensic skills.
She's even prepping for this, totally mundane transfer into public affairs.
Which Rhyme sees right through. He knows instinctively that's wrong for her. She's too active, too. Visceral.
And her first reaction to him is just total revulsion.
Oh, completely. She stares at his useless legs under the blanket, and she's just overwhelmed by disgust and, a real fear of his condition.
But he sees something else in her, this raw, focused determination.
He does. And she becomes his portable 5885, his remote set of eyes and hands, driving this heavy, custom rapid response vehicle, the RRV, that's just packed with specialist gear.
And that gear is really an extension of Rhyme's brain, isn't it?
It is. Crucially, the RRV has the pole light, or ALS, the alternative light source.
Okay, let's break that down for anyone who isn't a CSI expert. The ALS isn't just a fancy flashlight.
Not at all. It's essential for modern crime scene work. It uses this high-intensity, filtered light that makes physical evidence, we're talking fibers, latent prints, biological traces, it makes them fluoresce.
So it basically makes the invisible.
Yeah, exactly, by filtering out all the ambient light. This tool, carried by Sachs, is what makes Rhyme's remote investigation even possible.
So the case itself, it starts with this abduction right off the bat from a yellow cab at JFK.
Two travelers, John Olbrecht and Tammy Jean Colfax. They're just snatched. The male victim, Olbrecht, is found later, deceased.
He was shot with a .32 slug. The source material calls it the Honda Accord of slugs. Common, easy to get.
Very. And he was buried alive near 37th and 11th.
But that initial gravesite, That's the killer's announcement.
That's his opening move.
Yeah.
Rhyme immediately identifies the unknown subject, designated 8293, as someone who understands forensic procedure.
Which is a rare and incredibly dangerous trait in a killer.
Extremely. And one single disturbing detail proves it.
The ring.
The ring. The unsub cut Ulbrecht's finger down to the bone to remove T.J. Colfax's ring, the one with her initials on it, and then he wore it himself.
This is that first flash of true criminal sophistication, so why wear it? Why not just leave it?
Because it's bloody. In any standard investigation, a detective finding a bloody ring at a secondary scene would treat it as a contaminated trophy.
They'd bag it separately, hesitate to touch it because of, fears of AIDS or hepatitis.
Precisely. But by wearing it himself, the unsub secures that crucial piece of evidence, the link to the captive woman. Without any risk of it being mishandled or contaminated, he is controlling the evidence flow.
He's sending a message.
He's screaming it. I know the rules you operate by, and I am rewriting them for this game.
And that discovery instantly flips this from just another homicide into this high-stakes intellectual duel.
Right. Rhyme deduces the grave is a secondary scene. Ulbrecht wasn't shot there, and the victim, TJ, is being held somewhere else, probably underground or in some deserted industrial area where he has total privacy.
So the mission statement becomes simple. 823 is playing a game, and Rhyme has to beat him at forensic chess before that clock hits 3:00 p.m.
Which brings us into the core of Rhyme's methodology. He lays it out for Sachs and the team. They have to hunt for two distinct types of evidence.
Okay, what are they?
First, you have your standard physical evidence, or PE. This is the stuff that's unintended. Your classic hair, fibers, latent prints that the criminal forgets to clean up.
The mistakes.
Exactly. But second, and more importantly here, you have the planted evidence. These are the deliberate scavenger hunt clues that he wants them to find.
And the genius, Rhyme says, is in cross-referencing the two.
Precisely. The planted evidence tells you what the unsub wants you to think, but the standard PE tells you what he actually did. Together, they should point toward the safe house.
So back to that grave site, it's pretty sparse, but it's engineered.
Completely engineered. They find scraps of paper with a date and time, a bolt, a wad of asbestos, and some sand.
And Rhyme also notices two sets of footprints. At first, that suggests two unsubs, right?
It does, but Rhyme adapts his theory quickly. He thinks either the unsub has a dual persona, or he staged the prints to make it seem like two people were involved, just to muddy the waters.
And this is where Sachs gets her first really brutal lesson in handling evidence.
Oh, it's a critical moment. The sand contained a smooth, worn stone. When she picks it up to examine it, she accidentally leaves a faint crescent mark from her fingernail right next to her own fingerprint.
A rookie mistake.
A total rookie mistake, but Rhyme's deduction from this tiny error is just clinical. He realizes the unsub actually tipped the stone just enough to make sure a print would be picked up.
So he wanted them to find a print on it. Why?
He's announcing two things. One, by leaving a print on a stone that's worn smooth by water, often seen as, a feminine object, he's confirming the victim is a woman. He's upping the emotional ante.
And
two, critically, he's telling them that traditional accidental PE will be almost impossible to find. He's challenging them directly. Don't bother with regular forensics. Focus on the clues I planted for you.
But those deliberate clues, they're the real breadcrumbs. And that bolt provides the first massive break.
It does. Sachs describes it to the communications dispatcher, Emma Rollins, who identifies the stamp letters CE.
Consolidated Edison, Con Ed.
Right. But it's the size that's the key. It's a Michigan tool and die product, and it's this unusual 15/16 of an inch.
That is so specific. Who even thinks to check that?
Lincoln Rhyme. He instantly connects that rare dimension to specific city infrastructure. That size means it was used for very old New York pipes, 60, 70 years old, that require these incredibly precise seals.
It's not a bolt you'd find at the hardware store?
Not at all. It's specialized. It's a piece of history. And when Rhyme connects the asbestos they found with the bolt, he learns this terrifying fact from Con Ed.
Which it is.
Asbestos isn't used for electrical wiring anymore, but it is sometimes still found on old steam lines.
Oh, wow.
And that narrows the search down dramatically. We're talking about the city's underground, high-pressure steam system.
How dangerous is that?
Unbelievably. Con Ed heats water to 1,000 degrees, creating this blistering, superheated steam, about 380 degrees Fahrenheit, and it travels through 100 miles of pipes at 75 miles an hour.
It's basically a weapon hidden under the city streets.
It's a kinetic weapon, yes, and the deduction points them straight to an old building's boiler room near Pearl Street in downtown Manhattan.
So Sachs races to the scene in the RRV, but they're too late.
Tragically, too late. T.J. Colfax is found dead, chained to a pipe, exposed directly to that lethal steam.
And the scene description is it's visceral.
It's awful. The sources describe the smell as boiled meat, and the victim's skin is bright red, peeling off in huge scales from the heat. The body is twisted. It shows the violence of her struggle.
And despite how horrific it is, and the fact that the unsub was so diligent, Sachs sees broom marks, he swept up.
He cleaned up after himself.
She still manages to spot hidden evidence.
She does. She finds a deformed handprint on a tank where the killer leaned to watch his victims suffer. This print was invisible in normal light. She had to use the polylite, the ALS.
Which proves again how vital that piece of equipment is.
It's everything to his method. And on a ledge nearby, she finds the next set of staged clues. A splinter of dark wood.
Which Rhyme immediately IDs as from chopsticks.
Right, suggesting the unsub had lunch nearby. There's also some hair and a small bone.
And that bone is later identified as the greater multangulum of a human hand.
Yeah, let's just pause on that for a second. The greater multangulum.
It sounds so obscure, which has to be the point.
It's absolutely the point. It's one of the carpal bones in the wrist, right at the base of the thumb. By leaving the specific bone, the unsub is making a horrific statement.
He's fixated on the skeletal structure.
When specifically the hand, the very tool of the criminalist. It's a direct personal challenge to Lincoln Rhyme, and it links him to the historical blueprint, James Schneider, the bone collector.
We'll get to him in a minute, but the scene culminates in what is maybe the most ethically challenging moment of this whole deep dive.
It's brutal. Rhyme, over the radio, forces Sachs to violate strict protocol.
He tells her to retrieve the victim's cuffed hands before the medical examiner even gets there.
With a saw. A bone saw from the evidence kit.
It's this moment of just chilling rationality in the face of absolute horror.
It is. Rhyme explains that since the victim's heart wasn't beating, the blood would be cooked into a solid by the steam. So this gruesome act is necessary to secure the evidence, the cuffs, before decomposition can set in.
And Sachs. She does it.
She does it. She's traumatized.
Okay.
She does it. She later tells the brass, "I cut her hands off, my good Lord." This experience, this baptism by fire, it fundamentally changes her.
And this shared trauma, it really cements the partnership. The bedridden brain and the field agent's traumatized hands. She accepts the necessity of the act, even as it clearly shatters her.
And that dedication forces Rhyme's mind into the next phase. He has to understand the killer's fixation.
And the pattern becomes clear. The unsub is obsessed with old New York.
Deeply obsessed. Rhyme realizes all the clues are specific historical landmarks. The train tunnel near 37th Street. It's there because 11th Avenue used to be called Death Avenue because of all the train crossing fatalities.
And Pearl Street was a major road in colonial New York.
Right, so Rhyme immediately requests the Randall map, a historical survey map of the city, to help him.
And that shift from just looking at physical evidence to layering on historical context, that's the key to Rhyme's genius, isn't it?
It is. He's not just looking at the present. He's reconstructing the past life of the city to understand the killer's movements. And this fixation leads them to Dr. Terry Dobbins for a psychological profile.
So what does Dobbins say?
Dobbins confirms he's an organized offender. He's slick, smart, and everything is pre-planned. But the psychological core is the discovery of a dual personality.
Now, Dobbins is clear. This isn't true dissociative identity disorder.
No, not in the clinical sense. It's more of a functional second identity that the killer puts on like a mask when he's operating.
And this second identity, it gives him permission to kill.
Exactly. Dobbins suggests the primary personality might actually come from a job where he was trained to help people, a priest, a counselor, or critically, someone with medical training.
Which ties back to that efficient surgical knot he uses to restrain a victim later on.
It all connects. But this dual identity needs a source, a script to follow, the blueprint.
And the blueprint is a book.
A specific, stolen, 75-year-old red leather-bound library book, Crime in Old New York. It details the crimes of James Schneider, the bone collector, who operated back in the 1900s.
And he didn't just read the book, he stole it from the library.
He committed larceny to possess it. It's like a sacred text for him.
And he's actively role-playing. He's weaving his victims into this old story.
Chillingly so. He called T.J. Colfax Hannah, probably referring to Hannah Goldschmidt from the book. Later, he calls another victim Maggie, a reference to Maggie O'Connor, a girl whose remains were never found after Schneider got her.
So the historical echoes are they're frighteningly precise.
They are. Schneider kept victims in cellars. He was known for this thing about finishing the work of the tragic fire. He was obsessed with bones. This current unsub, 823, he's not just inspired by him, he's performing a precise homage.
But wait a second, if he's so smart, so organized, why leave such an obvious clue? I mean, a stolen library book that ties you directly to a historical killer, that feels almost lazy.
That's the key psychological insight. He's not lazy. He's obsessed with being recognized. He wants Rhyme to know who he is and why he's doing this. This isn't random. It's a deeply personal message aimed squarely at Lincoln Rhyme.
And that personal motive is it's devastating.
It is. The unsub is Colin Stanton. His family was killed years ago after Rhyme made a catastrophic forensic error at a staged murder-suicide scene.
A mistake Rhyme made led to the death of this man's
A
family.
huge mistake. Rhyme failed to spot a crucial contamination point, so Stanton now sees himself as the living consequence of your actions.
Which is a terrifying twist on a line Rhyme actually wrote in his own textbook.
He's throwing Rhyme's own words, his own life's work, back in his face. And Stanton's goal isn't just killing. It's systematic revenge. He wants to lure Rhyme out of retirement and make him responsible for the deaths of everyone he cares about. Sachs, Solito, his caregiver Tom, Dr. Berger.
So this whole case, it's not a hunt for a random serial killer. It's Rhyme fighting a ghost from his own past.
And the price of failure is the lives of the only people still connected to him. Which, of course, accelerates the timeline dramatically and brings us to phase 2.
So the unsub, Stanton, he knows the police are on his trail now. And he immediately escalates.
He escalates and he adapts his methods. The first sign is the second victim, Manel Gerger. She's abducted from a Deutsche Haus laundry room, a residence hall for German expatriates.
And the technical details are immediately instructive.
They are. She was tied with this unusual, efficient, not later identified as a surgical suture.
Which ties right back to Dr. Dobbins' theory that 823 has medical training, the helper personality.
Exactly. And Manel, before she dies, provides a key detail. The unsub spoke some basic German, das Nummernschild, meaning the license plate.
And crucially, he wasn't driving a yellow cab this time.
No, he adapted immediately. He used a sedan light, gray, silver, or beige. It confirms he has multiple stolen vehicles. They later identify a silver Ford Taurus from Hertz.
And the second crime scene is the stockyard tunnel.
Right. Sachs finds Manel tied to a post. And in this genuinely chilling sequence, the post is guarded by rats. A whole swarm of them.
Which forces Sachs into this rapid, unscripted action. She fires her Glock to scare them away. It shows her growing courage under pressure.
And once the scene is safe, she uses that newfound focus. She spots knee prints on the ground where the unsub straddled Manel to strangle her. But the major forensic victory is spotting this tiny, overlooked detail.
A faint fingerprint.
A faint fingerprint on a tank where the unsub paused after picking up his glove.
That's classic low-cards principle, right? Every contact leaves a trace. But how did she even see it?
The pulley light again. The ALS makes the latent residue fluoresce, making the print visible. She gets an incredible one-to-one Polaroid of it. This print is huge. It's the unintended PE that directly contradicts the unsub's message that they wouldn't find any.
It shows that no matter how organized he is, he can't control every single action perfectly.
No one can. But the staged clues at the scene get even more obscure. They find underwear from a specific fashion line.
Katrina fashioned Demore, hinting at a third female victim.
Right. And a scrap of paper with the phases of the moon, a dead rattlesnake skeleton mounted on a board from a shop on Broadway, and an autumn leaf.
And it's the trace evidence, again, that provides the real actionable data.
Specifically, it ties into his cleaning habits. Mel Cooper, the lab tech, analyzes a fiber from the trunk liner. It's a common textile, but it has this small wave of cleanser residue on it.
TD Clean, a specific brand of automotive cleaner.
Which confirms what Manel observed, that the car trunk smelled clean.
Ah, so this is where the smart killer's diligence completely backfires on him.
It's the perfect paradox. He meticulously cleans the car with Teddy Clean to remove fibers, but the residue of the cleaning fluid itself becomes a unique signature, a new type of PE.
His effort to clean made him easier to track.
Exactly. And on top of that, the sand from the stockyard contained old manure, which explains why Sachs smelled brute aftershave at the scene.
He was covering the smell of the manure.
He was. He used the strong, identifiable scent of brute to mask the potent odor that would have clung to his clothes and shoes. So the aftershave, a deliberate attempt to hide, becomes an identifying clue for the next scene.
But just as Rhyme is putting all these complex details together, the whole case gets violently interrupted.
The FBI, Special Agent Fred Delray, takes over, citing a potential terrorist angle.
And Delray, who the source describes as a giant terrier,
A great description.
he's focused entirely on political motives. A snitch mentioned the JFK abduction site, and there's a huge UN peace conference going on.
So Delray believes all of Rhyme's forensic clues are just diversions. He thinks they're designed to confuse law enforcement and pull them away from a larger plot.
So you have this immediate, dangerous clash of investigative philosophies.
Completely. Rhyme's absolute faith in the objective truth of physical evidence versus the FBI's focus on motive, ideology, and national security. Delray tries to strong-arm the evidence to send it to the FBI's lab.
And this is where Sachs shows her true loyalty.
An incredible initiative. In a major act of defiance, she jacked the physical evidence. She basically stole it before Delray could seize it.
Which is a monumental risk for a patrol officer. It's theft of federal evidence.
Oh, it's huge. Delray later tries to have her arrested for it right outside Rhyme's townhouse. He even brings the U.S. attorney with him to show he's serious.
But the fact that she was willing to do that says everything about her belief in Rhyme's methods.
It does. And the fact that they then go on to save William Everett proves that Rhyme's forensic focus was the only thing that could save lives, regardless of the killer's ultimate motive.
Okay, so that brings us to phase 3. The FBI is momentarily sidelined, and Rhyme's team is racing to decipher these final cryptic clues.
Starting with the arson clue. This is a brilliant example of historical cross-referencing.
He takes that scrap of paper with the moon phases.
And he cross-references it with historical fires in the New York City archives. He connects the specific date, May 20, 1906, to the First Methodist Church fire.
An arson set by an anarchist named Eugene Lockworthy.
Right. And Lockworthy didn't just burn the church. He bolted the doors shut, killing 18 people inside. A detail that just emphasizes the killer's escalation.
So Rhyme deduces the unsub is planning another arson at an old church.
Initially, some trace evidence points them toward Harlem, but Rhyme pivots. He thinks it's more likely downtown because of the unsub's overriding obsession with old New York landmarks.
And while they're chasing that, the second critical clue emerges from the autumn leaf.
Mel Cooper identifies it as a ginkgo leaf, common in old neighborhoods like the Lower East Side.
But the leaf itself isn't the real clue. It's what's on the leaf.
The contamination. It's stained with brine, salt water, and pitch, which is tar or asphalt. And it has this tiny, oily silver fleck on it.
A gold alloy from a jeweler's tool.
Right. That's a piece of standard PE that points to a profession. But the brine and pitch are the key to the location. Rhyme makes this terrifying deduction. The combination of salt water and asphalt means the victim will be drowned under an old pier downtown.
And this is where the Randall map comes in again, showing Rhyme's incredible archival knowledge.
He remembers his own personal history. His favorite old swimming spot as a kid was an abandoned pier near North Moore and Chambers Streets, which was once home to the Hudson Dusters gang in the 1890s.
The killer is targeting locations with their own criminal history. It all ties back to the bone collector blueprint.
And the clock is just brutal here. Banks reports they have only 14 minutes until high tide, which would completely submerge the victim, William Everett.
And Banks even mentions that Delray's team might use extreme methods, something about a bag of apples.
Yeah, it's a colloquial reference to a brutal interrogation tactic. You hit a suspect with a heavy object inside a bag of produce. The bag breaks the force of the blow but can leave bruising that looks accidental.
It just highlights how desperate and high pressure the whole situation has become.
But Sachs doesn't wait for any of that. She focuses on action. She gets the fireboat station divers to the pier, and they arrive just in the nick of time. They use metal cutters to save William Everett just before he's submerged. A massive victory.
But the unsub is relentless. Almost immediately, we have the third victims, Carol Gans and her 3-year-old daughter, Pammy.
Abducted from a yellow cab at JFK, just like the first victims. Carol is a widow on her way to the UN conference. And the unsub attempts to cut her foot to get a bone again, sticking to the bone collector obsession. But Pammy's screams interrupt him.
And here's where the two threads finally converge. The killer's historical obsession and the FBI's political fears.
Exactly. Stanton, the unsub, is using Carol Gans's identity. She's the widow of a conservative martyr named Willoughby. He's setting her up for a massive frame job.
He's planning a UN bombing, and he's going to blame it on her and some extremist group.
The killings were just the overture. The grand finale is framing Rhyme City for a terrorist act, fulfilling Stanton's desire for chaos caused by Rhyme's own mistake from years ago.
Which brings us to the final piece of forensic genius, the one that reveals the safe house location.
The stone and dirt found in Carol's clothing contained tannin.
This is maybe Rhimes' most magnificent intellectual leap. Let's unpack this slowly because it's incredible. How does finding tannin in a fiber lead you to a 200-year-old polluted pond?
Well, Cooper identifies the tannin structure, linking it to industrial processes. Rhyme then pulls up these historical city maps from his memory. Downtown Manhattan once had this huge freshwater source called the Collect Pond, or Der Kolek.
And it became so polluted it had to be drained and filled in?
Exactly. Polluted by the surrounding industries, specifically the tanneries on its eastern shore, which dumped massive amounts of cannon and industrial waste into the water.
So the tannin trace is literally the chemical ghost of a geographical feature that hasn't existed for 2 centuries.
Precisely. Rhyme deduces the unsub safe house must be built on the landfill site where the old tanneries operated. This points them to an old federal-style mansion on East Van Brevoort near an archaeological dig site.
It's an unbelievable display of merging chemical analysis, historical knowledge, and geographical reconstruction.
It's a power no other investigator in the city possesses. And it brings us directly into the climax. The team is racing to the safe house, but Sachs suddenly realizes the arson plan is still active.
She realizes the moon phase clue didn't point to a church that existed in 1906, but one that shared the same historical significance.
Right. She deduces the fire is planned for an old black church downtown, St. Paul's or Trinity.
And she drives the RRV like a maniac. The scene is just absolute chaos. She crashes through UN barricades, a street fair.
It's a trail of destruction. But that reckless speed is her defining trait. She gets to the church and it's already blazing. Carol Gans is tied near a crude gasoline bomb, said to be ignited by the fire.
And Sachs shows this astonishing, quick-thinking bravery.
She does. She can't reach the victim, so she fires her Glock at a fire extinguisher, knocking it down the stairs to suppress the blaze just long enough to reach Carol.
She saves the mother, but Pammy, the little girl, is still missing.
So Sachs immediately uses her new CSI skills. Rhyme knows Stanton must watch his victims, just like he watched T.J. Colfax. So Sachs vacuums tire treads and windowsills at a secluded vantage point, a restaurant patio across the street.
But Stanton is still playing the personal game. The safe house is found abandoned, and then he tracks Sachs to her own apartment.
The ambush is brutal and deeply intimate. Sachs is attacked, cuffed, taped, and buried alive, right there in her own apartment.
The same fate as the first victim, Ulbrecht.
The same suffocating dread Rhyme lives with every day, unable to move, unable to breathe.
And at this moment, Rhyme himself is suffering. The stress of the case has caused a severe dysreflexia attack. Let's just explain what that is because it's central to the climax.
Autonomic dysreflexia is a life-threatening symptom of a severe spinal cord injury. It's a massive, uncontrolled spike in blood pressure that can lead to a stroke or death. It can be caused by physical pain, or in Rhyme's case, extreme psychological stress. It leaves him writhing in agonizing pain.
Lying in his bed after the attack, Rhyme uses his own physical distress as his final strategic weapon.
He does. He calls in a 1013 an officer needing assistance for all his team members. When they confirm they're safe, he knows Stanton must be with the only one who didn't answer, Sachs. He sends them to her location.
But Stanton isn't finished with Rhyme.
No. He visits Rhyme in his bedroom, confirms his identity as Colin Stanton, and prepares to kill Rhyme's entire circle one by one right in front of him. He even throws Rhyme's own words back at him. For every action, there's a consequence.
And Rhyme's countermove is just. It's desperate, suicidal, and brilliant.
He forces a second, massive dysreflexia stroke. Thrashing, eyes bulging, he stops breathing. It's an act of self-weaponization.
And Stanton, driven by this insane desire to prolong Rhyme's suffering, tries to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
And in that split second of proximity, Rhyme executes his final non-forensic attack. He clamps his teeth down on Stanton's neck, severing the carotid artery and cripping a portion of his spine. It's a primal, violent end.
So the aftermath is messy. The case is closed, Stanton is dead, Pammy is found safe, and the UN bombing does happen shortly after, confirming the FBI's initial concern, but also showing how Stanton used an innocent victim's name to continue his chaos even after death.
The whole arc is just a masterclass in how high-stakes forensic work, when coupled with intellectual rigor, can prevail even against a killer who knows the entire playbook.
We should probably just quickly review the specific techniques that won the day here. It wasn't standard police work. It was this absolute reliance on minute trace evidence.
Lockhardt's principle in full effect. The killer's own actions betrayed him. That titty clean cleanser residue.
Hmm.
His effort to clean was what provided his chemical signature.
Right. And the innovative use of the ALS, the polylite, to find that deformed handprint and the crucial fingerprint that Sachs lifted.
And then there's the intellectual work that ties the physical world to the historical archive. Rhymes' analysis of obscure sources, the Con Ed Bolt's Rare Size, the Stolen Library book, and especially the Tan and Collect Pond connection. Without that, they would have failed.
And you can't forget Dobbins' profiling, predicting the escalation, and Rhymes' deduction that Stanton needed to watch his victims. The mind predicted the physical location.
But the personal cost is just staggering. Rhyme has a near-fatal attack and has to kill a man with his teeth, and Sachs is forced to go from patrol officer to field agent overnight. She's buried alive, and yet she ultimately chooses this brutal life. She finds her calling in the dirt and the danger.
Which brings us to the final moments. Despite everything, Rhyme is still exhausted, still ready for assisted suicide. Dr. Berger is there with the Seconal and the brandy.
But Sachs, having just faced death herself, she understands his exhaustion, but she makes a plea.
She convinces him to postpone, just for a little while, for one final act of shared sensation. She tells him, when he was burying me, I couldn't move. I understood how you feel.
But she offers him the ultimate contrast to his immobility.
They take a high-performance car out onto Long Island and push it to 120 miles per hour. Sachs's father's mantra echoing, when you move, they can't get you.
And Rhyme believes he can feel the vibrations, just faintly, in his useless finger. It's a moment of connection and physical sensation that transcends his paralysis. And Sachs agrees to help him end his life later, after this one last shared moment.
The whole story suggests that for a mind like Rhymes, life is really defined by challenge. His greatest fear wasn't death itself, but the end of the challenge, the quiet atrophy of his brilliant mind.
That moment he postpones his decision, despite the pills being right there. It suggests that knowledge and connection, even if they're fleeting, can sometimes outweigh absolute physical suffering.
So we'll leave you with this final provocative thought to mull on. Rhyme claimed to have given up the dead, his old colleagues, the victims, the version of himself he lost. And yet this case and his connection with Sachs prove that those we mourn and those we fight, they stay with us. They shape our final decisions. So if Rhyme, the ultimate rationalist, found a reason, however temporary, to re-engage with life through speed and connection, does it suggest that the ultimate value of knowledge isn't just accumulation, but the continuous, challenging, shared pursuit of it, even when you're faced with the absolute certainty of suffering? What knowledge would keep you going?